Good day, welcome to agricultural science class. Today we are going to learn about an interesting method of artificial plant propagation referred to as air layering or mark cutting. Now what exactly is air layering? This is the development of a root system on a stem while that stem is still attached to the parent plant. So in order to perform this activity, we will use certain tools and materials. So let's have a look at these tools and materials. First, now this is a vial of rubbing alcohol, some rooting hormone, string, a pair of latex gloves, a very sharp budding knife, some tissue, a brush, some polyurethane paper, and some damp cocoa moss. Now also we have to have a plant to air layer, and today we will be using a ficus. Now let's look at the safety precautions when performing air layering. I have on my hands a pair of latex gloves, so I want to be very careful when I'm handling chemical substances. One of the chemical substances I will be handling, of course, is the rooting hormone, so I don't want this to come into contact with my skin. Also, I have rubbing alcohol. Well, this will burn your skin, you don't want it to come into contact with your eyes as well, so be very careful when using the rubbing alcohol. Also, I have with me a very sharp budding knife, so I must be very careful when I'm using this so I don't cause injury to myself or others who might be around. Now, all the other materials that we are using should be stored in a very safe place so that children will not have any access to them. Now, air layering is done to plants with woody stems, example, crotons, hibiscus, and ficus. Now, I will be using a ficus plant today. Now, I have chosen this plant on this particular area of the plant for a number of reasons. Now, if you look at this area here, you see it's a well-rounded plant with no signs of any disease on any of the stems. Also, when I remove this piece of plant from the parent plant, I do not affect the entire shape of the plant in any substantial way. Now the first step in air layering is sterilizing the budding knife. Now I have some rubbing alcohol that I will use to do this. So I'm taking some of the alcohol, applying it to the tissue, and I'm just rubbing it gently on the sides of the knife. Now I'm being very careful while I'm performing this task. And that's the end of step 1. Now step 2 involves selecting an appropriate stem to air layer. Now I have chosen this particular stem on the ficus plant because this stem, the foliage that is above this stem is very nice and well rounded. Again, there's no signs of any disease or anything like that on the plant. Also, when I remove this stem, I do not affect the general shape of this plant in any substantial way. Step 3 involves removing the bark and cambium layer of the stem. Now in order to do this, I am going to make 3 incisions on the stem. First, cut the surface, top area, and a similar cut about 2 to 3 centimeters away from the first cut. And be very careful when you're performing this activity because you don't want to injure yourself with the knife. Now the third cut's vertical to connect both cuts. Okay, so you're left with 2 cuts, top and bottom, and a vertical cut connecting both cuts. Now after the 3 incisions are made, we remove the bark. Now to do this, we just fold it back and peel it off. So we want to ensure all bark is removed from around this area. Now once the bark is removed from all around the stem of the plant, we gently scrape the cambium layer. Now the cambium layer is an area of rapid cell development, so we want to prevent this rapid cell development from occurring in this area. So we gently remove all cambium by gently scraping the area. Step 4, we apply root and hormone to the area of the stem that where we have removed the bark and cambium layer. Now I'm wearing my gloves, remember, safety first. We want to ensure that the root and hormone, which is a powdery substance, does not come into contact with our skin. So I'm just taking just a little bit on my brush and gently brushing it onto the area that the bark and cambium was removed. Now the root and hormone is going to stimulate root growth in that area. Now in step 5, we apply damp cocoa moss to the area of the stem in which we removed the bark and cambium layer. Now I must squeeze dry the moss so I don't have too much water in the moss. I'm taking this moss and I'm going to wrap it gently around this area, covering the entire area where I made the incision. Now step 6, we are taking the plastic urethane bag and placing it around the cocoa moss. Now this needs to be secured here very tightly, so I'm going to use my string. Now I'm going to cover all of the moss as much as I could with the plastic. Be sure to wrap very tightly. So I'm going to take my piece of string now and tie polyurethane, securing it firmly to the stem of the plant. Now the reason we're using clear plastic wrap is to ensure that once roots start to form, we can see the roots through the clear bag. So now we have provided this stem with an environment suitable for root formation, right on the parent plant. Now after the area has been tied with twine and it is secured, we have come to the end basically of our air layering activity, but we must ensure that we perform post-operations, which is basically the cleaning up activity. Now this air layered part is going to be left for about 3 to 4 weeks, during which callus and root formation is going to occur. Now, if successful, we are going to see roots, actual roots, growing out of the stem in this area. So when we see the roots and the callus forming, we sever this piece of the plant, which is now a new plant because it has a root and a shoot system. We have the root system and the shoot system, and we can transplant this and get a beautiful ficus plant. So we are going to ensure that our area is cleaned and secured. And this has been a presentation on air layering. I want to thank you very much for your cooperation and your attention. I do hope our video was enjoyable and very informative. Thank you and good day.